Hey there, this is B. Wendy Jackson. I wanted to quickly interrupt you before you listen to the next episode. Listen, thank you for your support with the podcast. Those of you who've been following me since January 2020, I really appreciate you. I want to hear from you. You can send me a message at info@AAOP as in Paul, C as in Charlie, S as in Snake.net. I would love to hear from you. Also, if you have not rated and reviewed the podcast, would you do that for me, please? It also allows people to find the podcast. This is growing. The podcast is growing, and I'm so excited. I've had to update my little commercial because my name has changed and my website has changed in terms of where you receive the books. So if you have not purchased your books, I got the opportunity and the gift to write two books. The first one is Empowerment for You, Encouragement for Your Emotional and Spiritual Wellness. Listen, I love this book. It is definitely a book that invites you to experience hope, help, and healing. And every page, every chapter is really filled with insight, information, and inspiration to be able to help empower you, to be able to help you walk in freedom. I include specific practical tips to help you take charge and take possession of your thoughts and really just control your behaviors or impact your behaviors and impact some changes in your life, cause some changes in your life. And then the second book is Empower to Empower You Reflection Workbook. Love this book as well because it's based on specific podcast episodes where you listen to some episodes and you are able to dive deep into some reflection. I give you some prompts so that you don't have to wonder or think about, well, how do I start to reflect? What do I even write? The prompts are already provided for you. Isn't that awesome? So there are also blank pages for you to journal or whatever you want to do, right? And so I just invite you. You can go on Amazon and just look for B. Wendy. So I don't want to cause any confusion. My maiden name is Bob. So people have known me as B. Wendy Bob for so long. And then July 2022, I was blessed to be married. And so now I'm B. Wendy Jackson. So Amazon, you could just search for the books B. Wendy Bob, and you will find those two books come up. If you have any questions, you could email me. You can also find the resources on my website, AAOPCS.net. That's AAO, P as in Paul, C as in Charlie, S as in Snake.net. Listen, I look forward to hearing from you. May the the books continue to add value to your lives. I'm really thankful for this opportunity to just encourage people all around the world. All right. Enjoy the next episode and have an amazing day on purpose. Hello, everyone. This is B. Wendy Jackson with the Empower to Empower You podcast. I'm so excited that you decided to tune in. If this is your first time tuning in, Empower to Empower You podcast is about all things Jesus Christ, mental health, anything to help you think differently and be the best version of yourself. If you've been tuning in with me or tuning into the podcast since January 2020, thank you so much. If you have subscribed, shared, liked, rated, downloaded, anything, I just appreciate that very, very much. I love to have amazing guests. Sometimes you'll just hear me, and sometimes you hear me with somebody else. And today, I get to have my friend all over again. Oh my gosh. Her name is Krystal Alexander. If you remember, y'all remember Krystal? Krystal was in episode 105. She talked about self-care on a daily basis. If you did not catch an episode, listen, go back and catch that episode because she gave some really good practical tips on how to take care of yourself. Today, unfortunately, Krystal has had an event in her life that she's going to talk about, and she's, thank you, Jesus, ready to talk about. And so Krystal, just a little bit about her. She is a licensed marriage and family therapist in the state of Tennessee. She has been working 14 years in the mental health field, just in various capacities. Krystal is the owner of Safe Counsel Coaching and Consulting Services, where she helps others recover from hurt and pain of loss, and educates others about grief and loss. And she gets to provide some insight on grief and loss, and even talk from her own personal experience. So I want y'all to get your seatbelts on. This is about to be an amazing podcast, especially as we release it in this season when it's cold, but it's also cold emotionally, when many people are grieving or trying to recover from loss or recover through loss. So, Krystal, welcome to the Empower to Empower You podcast.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be back. I love this so much, and I love you so much. So, yes.
I love you too, friend. So, of course, tell us where you are today.
Yeah. So, I think the last time that I was here, things were going well in my life. Things were good. And then, not too shortly after that, my father passed away suddenly. He died from a pulmonary embolism, and it really rocked my world. It shook me up. I had other family members in my life that were closer to me that had passed away, but this was unexpected. And the thing is that he wasn't sick. Um, and they found this blood clot in his lung. And when they went in to try to break up the blood clot, he went into cardiac arrest. And it was just something that was so devastating for me. I was not sure how I was going to come through it. I wasn't sure how I was going to heal from it. It felt like a never ending, stabbing, daggering pain in my heart, in my body, in my stomach. And I had always heard of people saying, like, you'll never heal from the loss of your loved one. Like you'll always grieve, like you won't ever get over it. And it was something for me where I felt like, if this is the pain that I'm feeling right now, if this is something that I have to live with for the rest of my life, that won't be possible.
Yeah. Yeah.
I cannot live with this type of pain for the rest of my life. And so I was like, I have got to figure something out. Like something has to change.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. Something has to change. And I've said this to you personally, and I want to say it publicly. I'm so sorry for your loss of dad. That I cannot imagine. So I love I think I'm going to use the something has to change.
Mm-hmm.
What has been that something that has changed, and how has God, as a Christian, how has God revealed himself to you in this season?
Yeah. I think that was also the big thing for me as well, was that I knew what type of God that I served. I
Yes.
knew that I served a God who could heal you from anything.
Yes.
The Bible tells us that he heals the brokenhearted and he bindeth up their wounds.
Yes.
So who is it for me or anyone to say that he can't heal a broken heart from grief? He can't heal a broken heart from any type of loss that you experience. So I was just like, okay, God, like, this is who you say that you are, then that means that I can be healed from this too.
Absolutely.
Even though I get all of that outside noise from people saying, like, this will be a never ending pain, it's always going to be there. There was a part of me that just felt like I can't believe that. So it was something so simple, honestly, from I was sitting with our financial advisor after my dad died. And she mentioned that when she had a significant loss in her life, that she ended up going to a grief class. And it was in that moment when she said that I remembered this particular program that I wanted to do. So let me just back up a little bit, because a lot of people think that I started focusing on like grief and loss and working with people who are grieving went after my dad died. And that's not true.
Mm,
I've been working with people who were grieving for years before my dad died. And a lot of people didn't really know that.
okay.
I used to, even before I even started counseling people, I worked in community mental health where I was doing case management with individuals who struggled with severe and persistent illnesses. I would literally sit with those clients, and this was not a part of my job description, but I would sit with those clients and talk to them about losses that they had experienced. They were grieving and they just needed somebody to sit there and listen to them.
Right, right.
I would take those clients to the graveyard just to help them heal from the losses that they had experienced. I wouldn't sit there with them. I would, sit in my car, but I would take them to the graveyard if that's what they needed to help themselves heal through this process of grief. And
Wow.
so a lot of people think they're like, oh, well, her dad died, so this has been something that has been helpful for her to start working with clients. Like, no, I've been doing this for a while.
Mhm.
I have. And I think it impacted me the most when my dad died because I really understood the depths of pain of the people that I have been working with.
Absolutely.
I got it. Like before then, I didn't really understand how painful it was, but now it's like, oh, I get it. It's painful. And
Yes.
I made it my journey in life, like my goal to make sure that I help other people heal from their losses,
Mhm.
heal from the hurt and pain of loss. And just help them know that like you don't have to stay in that pain forever. And so so now I'm going back to the grief class because when she mentioned that, it reminded me of this program that I had wanted to do for years, and I just never did it because I didn't have the finances, honestly, to do it. And at this time, I was like, oh, I can finally do it. And so I was like, what better time for me to do this program now than one, I actually need to go through the program myself because I'm experiencing the hurt and pain of loss. And two, now I can also learn how to help other people through it as well. And so that's what I did. It's a program called the Grief Recovery Method. And I use that program to help coach and counsel clients to help them heal through the hurt of their loss. And it has been a phenomenal program. It helped me tremendously. And that has really been the thing that God has shown me that, like, see, I've been trying to get you in this all this time.
Wow.
And now that you are here, now you can fully really thrive in your purpose and do what it is that you love to do. And I love doing this work with other people.
I love the fact that it sounds like to me it's obvious that God revealed himself even more as
Mhm.
Jehovah Rapha, healer.
Mhm.
When we think of healing, we only think of physical illness. We don't.
Right.
We put God in this box, right? Like God only heals physical stuff, right? But and if He doesn't heal the physical stuff, then is He really a healer? But then God also heals our emotional wounds or our
Right.
broken heart. And there are people who teach and who train that you cannot heal from grief.
Yeah.
I'm so thankful for the Christian worldview.
Mhm.
I'm so thankful that I don't have to conform, which we're not called to conform, right?
Yeah.
We're not called to conform to the culture and the worldview of the secular world, who says that you're gonna grieve forever.
Yeah.
And you're here saying, no, 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 God can heal me. Like
Mhm.
I said, I cannot live like this anymore. If this is the pain that I'm gonna feel, nah, that's not living. God
Mhm.
can heal me. So I love that. And so what has been, I mean, you mentioned the grief recovery method, and I
Mhm.
love the fact that I wonder if your personal experience, you've been doing this for a while, but now your personal experience of grief and loss has now elevated you and to do it more, right? And to do it more in a much more impactful way. So what has been the most in addition to grief recovery method, what has been the most helpful during your grief?
Yeah, yeah. The most helpful, in addition to that, has been my lack of judgment while grieving.
Meaning from others or from yourself?
From myself.
Wow. Amen.
Yeah. Because oftentimes we get in this place of judging ourselves for how we're feeling. Like, oh, I shouldn't be feeling this way, or I shouldn't be feeling sad, or even for the believer, I should be healed by now. I shouldn't, like, this shouldn't be coming up and disturbing me. And I had to learn throughout this grieving process that not to judge myself, knowing that, like, okay, God, I understand that you can heal me. I also know that healing happens in layers,
Yeah.
that it's not always just a one-time fix, like bam, he heals you. And it's like, no, now sometimes he does. That's a miracle, right? And
Mm-hmm.
other times it happens in layers. There's a process that you have to go through.
Mm-hmm.
And so not rushing myself during the grieving process and not judging myself as I grieve. Those have been the two most impactful and most helpful things for me. And that also looks like, you know what, when I notice sadness or when I notice those emotions coming up for me, I let it happen.
Yeah.
I don't try to stifle it. I don't try to run away from it. I don't try to push it back down. I say no, because I need to feel this.
That's so
It's
good.
another way of me confronting the hurt and the pain that
So
I
good.
experience.
Let's talk about the permission.
Mhm.
Give yourself the permission to feel and because we grieve because we love. And so if we stifle it, then are we allowing ourselves to still be loving and honor the person that we loved, who we lost?
Mhm.
Right. And so um I just love that you said that. I'm so thankful. Like that is very interesting that was your response in terms of the most helpful thing during your grief, for sure. How do you think that this is impacting, or how is this impacting the work that you do with your clients?
Yeah, yeah. It gives me so much more compassion and
Mm,
patience for my clients.
yeah,
Um, that I think that has been the most impactful for me is the compassion. Because honestly, I felt like, oh, I don't want to work with individuals that are grieving all the time because I feel like it'll, be super sad. And, I don't want to kind of have like that mood or type of demeanor with me all the time. But it has been the exact opposite of that. Like
yeah,
the sadness, yes, of course, you're going to experience sadness. Bible also tells us to grieve with those who grieve, to mourn with those who mourn, to rejoice with those who rejoice. And so there is a time where we just have to sit with people who are hurting. And
yes.
that has been the thing that I have learned the most, is that people who are grieving just need someone to listen to them. They just need the support.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think a lot of times people don't know how to, and you probably have seen this too. Some people don't know how to do that, how to sit. It's almost like they feel like they have to fill in the silence. They have to say
Oh,
something.
yes, yes, yeah. When
you know,
silence is perfectly fine. Because oftentimes we may say some words and the words might be the wrong words to say.
perfect example. And one day I'm going to do a podcast about Job's friends because they were fine the first 7 days.
The
They
first 7 days, right?
the first 7 days, right? Once they open their mouths,
Yeah.
oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Don't be Job's friends.
Yes. Well, the first 7 days of Joe's friends, like that's okay because
Don't do that.
they just sat with him in silence. But after that,
Right, right. Don't do that part.
right.
So let's say that there are people, Krystal, that are stuck and
Mhm.
they haven't got to the point where they make a decision to say no more. That
Mhm.
I've got to live, something's got to change. I mean, you put your foot down on grief.
Mhm.
Think about somebody who I know, and she lost her husband, and it got to a point where she said, "Uh-uh, grief, you got to go." I mean, literally, she just said, "You got to go. I have to live my life." He would
Mhm.
want me to move forward. I mean, she put her foot down. But there are people, unfortunately, that are stuck. They're stuck in that state of sadness, of disdain, probably anger, hurt, pain, right? What would you say to somebody who's stuck in the grief?
Yeah. What I would say to someone who is stuck in grief is it's going to take for you to confront the pain in order for you to become unstuck.
Oh, that's good, Krystal. Say that again.
Yeah, it's going to take for you to confront the pain in order for you to become unstuck. And the question is, do you want to be unstuck? Do you want to stay there? And if so, then that's okay. That's your choice. If you want to stay there, you can.
Yeah,
But if you don't want to stay there, if you want to get unstuck from it, you're going to have to make the decision to confront the pain.
that's so good. You sound like Jesus just then. Do you want to be free? That
That's the question, right?
is the
That's the
question.
question. What do
That
you
is
want?
the question. Yeah, absolutely. And I think sometimes this I love what you said. It has to take confronting the pain, because there are people that have this idea, and it's really a myth and a lie, or a lie, right? That if I am not grieving anymore, that it means that I am betraying the person I love.
Oh, oh my goodness. Be Wendy, listen. That is the thought process of so many people.
Yes,
People think that if I am not grieving, then that means I don't love that person anymore, that I have forgotten about that person. And that is far from the truth.
absolutely.
That
Mhm.
is far from the truth.
Mhm.
We grieve because we loved,
Right.
right? But that doesn't mean that we have to stay in that pain for the remainder of our lives.
Mhm. Absolutely.
We-
Absolutely. Absolutely. But do you see how that lie can keep somebody trapped and stuck in bondage?
Absolutely, because it's a fear. It's a fear of forgetting that person. It's a fear of feeling like I'm not honoring that person.
Absolutely.
When there are many different ways that we can honor someone, but holding yourself in bondage to fear and pain is not a way to honor your loved one.
Yes. Yes.
I'm pretty sure that your loved one would want you to be free from that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And even the idea of these expectations that are so false and irrational that we put on ourselves, that, as you said it earlier, this shoulds, right? I don't think
Mhm.
should I be laughing? Is it okay for me to laugh? Like, does this constant questioning because of false expectations of grief. Looks like it looks different for
Yeah,
every person. Would you say that? Like, would you speak to that?
absolutely. Absolutely. It does. It looks different for every person. Um, but just because it looks different for every person doesn't mean that we can't really recover from it.
Exactly. That's the key, right? That part right there. So what should people know about grief? If you were to kind of like identify the top 5 points, core 5 points, for 3 to 5 points, what should people know about grief?
Yeah. First thing is that grief is the natural and normal response to loss of any kind.
Mhm.
So it's not something that should be deemed as bad or terrible, or like, is it painful? Yeah, it is painful. It's a deep sadness, but it's completely natural and normal. And
Mhm.
also knowing that grief is also the conflicting feelings, the conflicting emotions that we have as a result of the loss.
Mhm.
And that's normal too. And so I don't ever want people to think or feel like that grieving is such a bad thing that I just need to get rid of. No, actually, grieving is part of the healing process.
Absolutely.
It is, and it's natural and normal. I think that is the biggest thing. And also, let me talk a little bit about unresolved grief, because you mentioned like people getting stuck in grief. And that's what unresolved grief is. Unresolved grief looks like um, like say for instance, you're having fond or good memories about someone and it immediately turns painful. That's unresolved grief.
Mm-hmm.
Or
Mm-hmm.
for instance, if you can only think about the negative aspects of the relationship, you can only talk about the negative aspects of the relationship, that could be considered unresolved grief. Or
Mm-hmm.
say, for instance, you can only think about the positive aspects of the relationship. Because the thing is that if we cannot look at the wholeness of the relationship with that person, the totality of what it looked like,
Mm-hmm.
there's only one part of us that's leaning to all the negative things, or there's only one part of us that's leaning to all the positive things, then that's not a realistic view of
Yes.
the relationship. And
Yeah.
that to keep us stuck.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know,
That's
sometimes we have a loss and we feel like, oh, well, this person was an angel and they were this good and all these. And it's like, but was that really the truth? And sometimes we think that we have to talk that positively that way about that person because now they're dead.
yes. And it's modeled on I hate to say it like that, but it's modeled in funerals.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like it is reinforced. I mean, sometimes people talk about, oh, Johnny was good and he did no wrong, and blah blah
Mhm.
blah. And then the people who really knew Johnny is like, bruh, who are you talking about?
Yeah.
Because that's not my experience with Johnny, right? Sometimes those messages are reinforced. It's as if, and I know that's a whole deeper subject, because people believe different things about death. It's almost
Right.
like I don't want to say something bad because Johnny's gonna hear me, even if he's dead. And so there's
Mhm.
a whole like secular stuff that people believe that are not necessarily part of our Christian worldview, right? I mean, somebody's dead, they're dead. They're not hearing what somebody's. That's a whole nother subject. Uh,
Mhm.
um, but you are so right. I mean, I love that you said there's unresolved grief, and then there's the couple points you mentioned, is that grief is normal and natural.
Mhm.
Response to the people that we love, the people that we lost, our loved ones whom we lost. And then you said it's a conflicting emotion.
Mhm.
Why did you say conflicting emotion?
Yeah, because grief is not always just sadness.
Mm,
The conflicting emotions of I feel sadness, but I also feel peace because that person is no longer here. Like maybe they're not in any pain anymore.
yeah,
I feel sadness, but I also feel anger and frustration because
mm,
they're not here. I feel sadness, but I also feel joy. I feel them both at the same time.
yes,
And that
yes,
was an experience of mine. I was like, I don't understand how I feel sadness, but I also feel joy at the same time. Like, this is really odd. And it was the conflicting emotions that I was experiencing. And I had to just allow myself to kind of just sit in it and knowing
yeah.
that, like, this is a part of grieving.
That's so good that you said that, because even thinking about our recent one of our pastors, who was our mentor and our leader, that our go-to person. He was all the pastor over adults and groups at our church, and recently just died in the midst of a triathlon. Had a cardiac arrest.
Oh.
Initially, it stung so hard. I mean, I was grieved, and I mean, very tearful, and wept, right? But then I was encouraged by the scripture in Thessalonians, where Paul was like, look, those who are believers, we will see them again. We will see them
Mhm.
again. And so, and so then I was sad, but I was also encouraged that,
Yeah.
Pastor Tim is with the Lord, like just kind of having that like encouragement. Yes, I'm sad, but yes, I'm encouraged. Yes, I'm
Mhm.
sad because I think of his wife and I think of their family, and I think of, man, that's a lot to take on. But just to be encouraged that this man is with the Lord, like, so that part I could see what you're saying for sure. Yeah.
Mhm.
There's
Yeah,
always that combination. Hmm?
yeah, yeah. They can both coincide. They can both exist at the same time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. So let's kind of jump to how, your resources, you writing books, you doing support groups, you just kind of, walking purposefully even more so. And so talk about your resources, your offerings. Where's God leading? What is He leading you to that you can share today?
Yeah, so I recently did ebook, and basically what it is a self-care ebook for individuals who are grieving. So it basically gives about 8 tips of self-care while grieving. And I would say this would be typically within the beginning stages of grief. These are all self-care tips that have been researched. They have been proven to help you while you are grieving. So this is not just something that, I thought of or I did while I was grieving and, I'm throwing these tips out here. No, these tips have been researched. They have been helpful for many individuals who are grieving. Some of the tips I took as well for myself. And so that is one resource that I have. The other resource that I have is I have a grief support group. It is called Caring Hearts Community, and that is absolutely free, open to anyone who wants to join. It is an online Facebook group where I just basically talk to individuals, support them while they are grieving, answer any questions that they may have. And so I basically just wanted to create a safe space for individuals to be able to share their hearts. Oftentimes we know that like sometimes it can be difficult for us to share our hearts with people who are close to us because maybe they may judge us for the things that we have to say. Sometimes grieving, like the thoughts and the things that you have while grieving, is not the best. Like sometimes they're, you know, thoughts that you have of your loved one, and it's not something that people would want to hear, or people close to you that were also close to them will want to hear. And so that's what the grief support group is for. It's for individuals who feel like, you know what, if I said this to my mom, then she would probably judge me for that thought that I was having. It's okay. That's what the group is there for you to be able to get out whatever it is that you feel like you're holding on to that you need to get out and feel supported and validated in your truth.
That's so good. I thank you for doing that. And how can people connect with you, Krystal?
Yeah, so people can connect with me on my website at www.safecounsel.org, or you can connect with me on social media at k.alexander lmft on Instagram. Same handle on TikTok as well. So I talk about grief and grieving and doing a lot of education around that on those 2 platforms. So yeah, I also do one-on-one coaching for individuals who want to walk through the work of the grief recovery method. That is a 6-week program that I do with individuals. So that is also another service that I provide if individuals are interested in that as well.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Is there anything else that you wish to share that I haven't asked you?
Um, The only thing that I really want to share is that I really want to normalize that grief is normal and natural.
Yeah.
And I don't want people to feel like that they are having to be rushed or feeling rushed in their grieving process. The process of actually healing and getting to the point of where you say like no more, I can't take this pain anymore, is when you're really ready to move forward and confront that pain and do the healing work.
Mhm.
Grieving is still natural and normal. There's not a time limit on it. You don't have to rush it. It's only when you're ready.
Yeah, I know we're trying to land the plane, but I have to say this. Unfortunately, our culture, does not allow you to grieve. There are African cultures where African Jews and other cultures where they're grieving for 6 months, you know, you know. So when a person hears what you're saying, but their job is like, you got to come back to work after 2 weeks. You got to
Yeah.
go back, or you a mom or a wife or a caretaker. I mean, how can people do that and still give themselves permission. Like, how do you do all of that, right? While giving yourself the time and the space and the sensitivity to grieve. That's my
Yeah.
last one, I promise.
Yeah, yeah. And that's the thing is that we do have to get back to work and get back to normal life. I hear something, or this is something that I would call myself doing, which is called pockets of grief. Pockets of grief. Those are moments throughout your day, throughout your week, where you notice that, like, oh, I noticed sadness, or oh, I noticed, this thing that just came up for me that reminded me of my loved one, and I feel sad or I feel frustrated about it. Give yourself like 5 to 10 minutes to feel that. That
That's
is you grieving in that moment. It's called pockets of grief.
that's good.
Well,
That's
you're still allowing yourself to navigate during the grieving process, but it's not looking like you having this full length of 6 months of time of grieving where I don't have to deal with anybody else or any work or anything like that. That's just not realistic.
That's good. Thank you for that, Krystal. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining the podcast today. Y'all connect with Krystal. I'm going to put her information in the show notes, safecounsel.org. That's SAFECOUNSEL.org. I'm going to put her IG and her TikTok handles on there. Connect with her. If you're ready to confront the pain of grief, this grief recovery method coaching, Krystal is the one for you, and this method is for you. So your ebooks are on your her website as well.
Yes, so the ebook is on, no, the ebook is not on my website. The ebook is on my Instagram and TikTok, what do you call it? The profile.
Profile, okay.
Yeah, click on there and get it from there. And you can also get access to the support group through my website.
Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you. This is B. Wendy Jackson with Empower to Empower You podcast. I pray that this was this added value to your life as you listen to this, as we go through the holidays. There's so much going on around us. May you be encouraged. We speak peace over you today. And I'll be back next time with another amazing episode. All right. Talk to y'all later.